Okay, so let's go ahead and make blocky walk. First off, there's a little bit of house cleaning I need to do. These hands right here, when I was working with you guys last time, I went ahead and I collapsed the stack. Well, then we won't be able to use that bend modifier anymore. So we want to leave that on. So easy enough. Just go back and put that bend modifier back on it. And that way we can close the hand that way. All right, so there, the thumb with the bend modifier, and this guy with the bend modifier. You know, oops. All right, good enough, good enough. Now, the thing is that when we were making the blocky character, we made it so that the pivots were all able to be zeroed out, right? So here's my rotate. And so if I went ahead and said like, okay, I want this to be back at 0, 0, 0, he's going to be in an absolutely neutral position. Same with the neck. It was already at 0. The head, 0, 0, and 0. Arms, 0, 0. Shoulders, those are already at 0. Hands, those are zeros. Forearms, 0. This one, all right. Okay, so now I noticed on the feet that they are at 90 degrees. Let's go ahead and set that to its 0 point. So going over here to the hierarchy, select pivot only. Now I'm going to zero that out so that the resting position is just like that. Same thing on this one, effect pivot only. Zero that out. Okay, so we're good. So we were able to put him into an exactly neutral position again. He's all zeroed out. Great. So let's make him walk. The thing about the animation with this guy is it's totally easy. As you know, all you have to do is move him around any old which way, and he just moves on that pivot. Okay, but making him walk is a little bit trickier. And so I wanted to just run you through that. And in doing so, I'm going to show you a couple things about the timeline and about keyframes. First thing I think I'll do is take off my safe frames so I can see more of the screen here. Maybe move this over. Okay, so I have just enough of this. Okay, in my left-hand viewport, let's start taking a look at timing and animation. So here's the timeline right here. Okay, and the first thing that you'll note is that it goes from 0 to 100. And that's the amount of frames. Normally we produce video these days at 30 frames per second. So if you think about that, that only gives you 1, 2, 3 seconds, and a little bit. Okay, well we want just a little bit more than that for what we're doing. So we're going to change this timeline. The way that you do that is you go down here where it says time configuration. Okay, follow my cursor down, 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 down. Time configuration. It's got the clock and it's got the little gear. And all we have to do then is change the length. We're going to make it 160 frames instead of 100. So not a huge change, but just enough for what we're doing today. Okay, and say OK. So now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to turn on my auto key. There's a set key and an auto key. We're just going to deal with the auto key. And the auto key is good. The only problem with the auto key is that what it will do is it always sets a keyframe at 0. That can be kind of great. It can also be kind of a pain in the patootie, and you'll see why in just a little bit. Okay, so I've got that set. And what I'm going to do is select just my legs, both the upper legs. So that's both sides right there. Okay, so with both of those guys selected, I'm going to go ahead and move my slider to 10 frames. Now you want to work with just even numbers, whole numbers, 10, 20, 15, 30, that kind of thing. It just makes your life a lot easier, trust me. Okay, so we've got that. And at 10 frames, I'm going to just rotate him up about 30 degrees. Make sure your angle snaps are on. It will just make your life a whole lot easier, turning that to blue. Okay, so I've got that at 10. And now, what I want to do at this 10 point right here is I want to select both my lower legs. So both of them are selected. And I want to give them a little jog, jig jog. So if I'm going to go up and then just back to exactly where they were. But what will happen is that now for these lower ones, I've set a keyframe. Otherwise, I had not set a keyframe for them. So it's really important to do that. It has to do with that whole thing going back to 0. Just trust me, just do that. Okay, but in any case, I've got that. And I'm going to move my slider forward to the 20. And I'm going to select both the upper and the lower legs now. And I'm going to take this keyframe, the one that was at the very beginning. I'm going to select that just by clicking on it. And I can shift copy these. So I'm going to hold down the shift key. I'm going to drag it over to the 20. Okay, and you'll see that the legs have dropped down. So at 0, we move it forward to 10. And you see the legs are going up and back down to 20. Okay, and the legs are back where they were. Thing about the keyframes is that they are color coded. So if it's green, like these ones right here, that is the rotate. And if it was red, that would be the move tool being animated. And if it is blue, that would be the scale, making things bigger or smaller. More on that here in just a little bit. You'll see why that's a really useful thing to know. Okay, so I've got that. So now I'm going to go forward, let's say to 30. And I'm going to select just those guys on the top. And I'm going to bring those back maybe about 20. Before it was all the way to 30. This time maybe about 20. That's fine. And then these back legs right here, the lower legs, I'm going to set those also at 20. Just to bend the leg as it's going back. Okay, so let's see how that looks. We've got leg forward, neutral, leg back. Okay, all good. Now all I have to do to repeat that is just select these and shift copy them. All right, so I'm going to select all the frames. I need to get both the upper and lower, so I get all the keyframes to both of them. And drag a marquee around everything. Hold down the shift key and just move it on over. So if we were at 30, we'll just go to 40 right there. So now should be able to move that slider, and it just goes forward and back and neutral and forward and back. Okay, all good. Let's select those guys again, selecting everything. And so now I shift copied these guys. It'd be really easy to just go ahead and drag a marquee and get all those guys. Shift copy once again. And there we go. Okay, I think finally, just to end it off, I'm going to take this very first keyframe, and I'm going to shift copy that all the way to the very end. And that will make my loop just that much smoother. Careful, don't go off the edge there. It's easy to do. Okay, so there it is. And if I was to push play, we'd see that there it goes. Just swing it. Okay, but we don't want it to just swing, we want it to walk. So what we're going to do now is I'll go ahead and grab, let's say, just this right leg right here, and the control click this other part of the right leg. Okay, so I've got those, and now only those ones are selected. The other leg is not selected, so the other keyframes are not visible. I know it looks the same, but trust me, only these ones are there. And what we can do is we could take and select everything, and just move them over, what, like 20 frames will complete the cycle, right? Because it was forward and neutral and forward or and back. So if I do this and just slide this over, we should get that, right? So it goes here and here. And you see that's working all good except at the very beginning. So what we have to do is we want somewhere where it is neutral, and we want somewhere where it is back. So here's neutral and here's back. Okay, that's what we want. Those two right there. So this time I'll just drag a marquee around those guys, and I'm just going to hold down my shift key, move that back, and you'll see that I've got that. Okay, so now it's neutral and forward and back and forward and back, and there it goes. He's starting to walk. Okay, and so once again, these are all green because they're just rotation. Good enough. Let's take a look at the arms now. So Fred body and his shoulders, and we'll get both arms. And as people walk, they generally swing their arms. So I'm going to go ahead and move this forward 10. And I've got both of the upper arms selected. And I'm going to move that forward. Oh, maybe about, we'll go for 20 this way. And then we're going to get both of the, oops, got too much there. Both of the lower arms. Okay, so I've selected both lower arms, as you can see. And I'm going to move those forward, because if you look now, see, I haven't set a keyframe for those lower arms yet. That didn't just happen automatically. So I got to do that now. So anyways, I've got that. And I'm just going to swing those forward even just a little bit more. Oh, another 10 degrees or so. Okay, so that has swung his arm forward just a little bit. And we can see, there it is, and it's bending just a little bit. I might exaggerate that just a little bit more. Boop. Okay. Oh, good. So now, we've got that, and then we want to make it neutral at our 20. So we want to grab both the upper as well as the lower arms, and we want to take and we want to grab that very first keyframe down here. We've selected that. We're holding down our shift key. We're moving it over, and it's now neutral. So we've got neutral, forward, neutral. Okay, going ahead to 30 there. We want just the upper arms once again. And we're going to swing those back a little bit. And even though I want to keep my arm straight, that'll be a more natural movement to have it straight here, but bent as it swings forward. I still want to select both of those. So we've got that. And then here's the other lower arm. Both of them are selected. And I'm going to give it, once again, that little jig jog, because right now there's no keyframe there. And so just move it, doesn't matter any which way, back to its neutral straight position. But just the fact that it was moved is now setting a frame. It's really important that you do that. Okay, but anyways, that seems to be going just fine. So we can go ahead and with both the upper and the lower arms selected. Okay, everything right, all good. Then we can go ahead and do the same thing as before, where I just make a loop out of that by selecting everything, holding down the Shift key, moving it over about 10 frames. And because I'm impatient, I'm going to grab everything now, holding down the Shift key once again, move it over. And finally, just like I did with the legs, I'm going to grab that very first key, holding down the Shift key, and move it to the very end. So we can see now those arms are moving a little bit, but just like the legs, I've got both the arms moving at the same time. Okay, so let's take a look at it. So people walk contrapposto. In other words, when your right leg goes out, your left leg, when your right leg goes out, your left arm goes back. And it's the same as all animals if you actually watch them. So right now, it looks pretty good. We've got our right leg going back as our right arm is going forward. Okay, all good. So let's do this. We've got to change the timing on the left arm. So let's select just the left arm, and you can see Control, and you can see the blue outline. So let's take a look. You see it's just that left arm that is selected. We see the blue outline around it, so we know. And all we have to do is select all these guys right here, both the upper and lower selected, and move them over about 20. And except for that very first part, we should see those arms now just working away. And just like before, if we take this second set, so we can see right here is neutral, and then here we've got that arm going back. That's just the way we want it. So we'll just grab those two, the neutral and the arm going back, hold down our Shift key, taking that back to the 0 point. Good, so we've got that going, and we can push play here just to see